Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Olson from the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I've been working with Julia for almost 100 episodes now, and she has really helped me grow my podcast from basically just my parents, my husband and kids, and my sister as listeners to over 17,000 downloads. I mean, the amount that she expanded my audience went way beyond my expectations. She really blew my mind. I have quadrupled the number of downloads over the past 12 months. Julia has been so much more than just my podcast teacher. She has been like a partner to me, really taking an interest in my program and helping me more than I ever could have asked for. I highly recommend Julia.
How amazing is that? I am so grateful that Dr. Lisa shared her experience. And if her story resonated with you and you're thinking, wait, I want results like that too, that is exactly what we're doing inside the Podcast Growth Collective. It's the place for online business owners who want to turn podcasting into a powerful growth tool without the burnout and without guessing what to fix. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and finally start seeing results from your podcast, I would love to support you. Head to thepodcastteacher.com/collective to learn more and to join us. And now let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to Podcasting for Introverts. I'm Julia Levine, aka the Podcast Teacher. I'm a fellow introvert, entrepreneur, and educator. If you want to start a podcast and expand your reach without social media, this is the show for you. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome back. Today, we're talking about whether or not to script your podcast episodes. I'll share some pros and cons for both scripting and not scripting, tell you what I personally do, and give you an alternative to using a script. I decided to address this topic because I had 3 separate people lately tell me that I talk way too slowly. And while I don't necessarily agree that I talk at Flash's speed from Zootopia, Google him if you haven't seen that movie, it's pretty hysterical, I will admit that I do talk on the slower side, and that's mostly because I'm using a script. It takes more time to read something word for word than to speak off the top of your head. By the way, if you're one of the people who is annoyed by the speed of my speech, I will direct you to the playback speed button where you can choose to listen to me at 1.5 or even 2 times speed. I know I do that for lots of podcasters. Anyway, I use a script because it helps me to convey information to you in a clear, organized, and coherent way. I don't lose my train of thought or have to come up with an example on the spot. As an introvert, I'm in my own head and I personally am not quick on my feet. I'm great at coming up with information or responses hours or days later, but not usually in the moment. I've heard from many introvert friends that they feel the same way. Though, of course, introverts are all unique individuals, just like everyone else, and this doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. But it seems like a good number of introverts would describe themselves as not thriving when put on the spot. So, when I write a script, I can spend time thinking about the information that I want to convey. I can decide the best order in which to present it. And I can rest easy knowing that I sound like the expert that I am and not a blabbering idiot. Another factor in my specific circumstance is that I deal with post-concussion syndrome, which causes problems with my executive functioning, including memory, processing, and concentration. I often describe it as all of the information is up there in my brain, but I can't always grab onto it and spit it out immediately. Finally, I'm not comfortable in front of the mic yet. This is episode 11, and I'm already so much more comfortable than I was during episode 1. I know that it will only continue to get better with time. Using a script helps me to show up and sound professional even when I'm uncomfortable. So that's my personal situation. Your situation may be entirely different. And while scripting is the right choice for me right now, it might not be for you. We'll get into some pros and cons in a moment, but I first want to say that you should only consider scripting your solo podcast episodes, the ones with just you. It's pretty hard to script an entire conversation between two people, and even if you did, it most likely would not sound very good. I find that interviews are a little less pressure, though, because it's truly a back and forth conversation rather than the monologue of a solo episode. I do always work from an outline for interview episodes, though, so we're sure to stay mostly on track with the content that we intend to cover. So if you choose not to script your solo episodes, the alternative is an outline, and I highly, highly, highly recommend working from an outline if you're not using a script. If you're a more comfortable improvisational speaker, an outline can help to ensure that you remember to cover the important points, but it also leaves room for ideas and examples that come to mind in the moment. Okay, so let's talk about some general pros and cons of scripting. The first pro is something that I already mentioned, which is that scripting allows you to organize your thoughts and information so that you can communicate it clearly. For an educational podcast, this is a pretty big pro. Listeners are tuning into your show to learn something, so you should be conveying that information in the most helpful way possible, and often scripting helps to accomplish that. Scripting also helps to prevent you from getting off track and going on tangents that aren't really relevant to the topic at hand. So in these ways, scripting benefits the listener. But scripting can also be beneficial to you as the podcast host. If you are not yet comfortable in front of the microphone, scripting can help to ease your nerves and convey confidence. I sort of see using a script for podcasting as similar to using training wheels on a bike. The training wheels help you to get started. They make it easier to do something that's challenging and maybe a bit scary. And the training wheels can stay on for as long as you need and be removed when you're ready to try it on your own. So using a script can help you take action. I find that especially for aspiring podcasters that have been thinking about a podcast, but routinely put the project on the back burner, that they are often finally able to get over the hump and make their podcast a reality when they add the quote-unquote training wheels of using a script. And one last pro is that it usually saves time in the editing process. When you're reading from a script, you are generally not using many, if any, filler words. So that aspect of editing is removed. You also have already carefully crafted what to say and in what order, so there's no need to cut out fluff or tangents. But of course, there are some cons to scripting your episodes too. The biggest one is that writing a script is time-consuming. Yes, you save time during editing, but there's no doubt that you're going to spend a good chunk of time crafting a script. Chances are that if you feel more comfortable using the script, that you're also an overthinker and maybe even a perfectionist. In which case, you could end up working on a single script for hours or days. I might speak from experience on this one. If this describes you, it's important to have some way of calling it good enough once a certain threshold of time is reached, so that scripting your podcast doesn't take up every minute of your time. The other big con is that you can sound scripted and not very natural when reading it, which can be a big turnoff for some listeners. So, in order to not sound so scripted, you need to write like you speak, incorrect grammar and all. And you need to practice the delivery, noting where to emphasize, pause, etc. It definitely takes some practice and, of course, more time. So, given those pros and cons, should you use a script for your podcast episodes? Only you can decide. If using a script makes podcasting more doable and comfortable for you, then use one. If using a script makes you groan, then don't use one. It's also not an all or nothing scenario. You can script anywhere from 1% to 100% of a podcast episode. Maybe you're okay talking off the cuff for the majority of the content, but struggle with wrapping up the episode. You can just script out your last couple of sentences. Or maybe you script out the whole episode, but as you're delivering it, you get a thought of something to add in. You can just interject within the script and say whatever it is you thought of. I do this myself, and it gets more comfortable the more I do it. To wrap up, I'll say that podcasting is truly flexible, and the only way to do it successfully is to do it in a way that works for you, whether that's scripting or not scripting. There's no right or wrong answer. So that's it for today. I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening. If something in this episode resonated with you and you're thinking about starting your own podcast, I have a free resource that will help you. It's called the Podcast Roadmap: 7 Questions to Start Your Journey. To grab it, just head to thepodcastteacher.com/roadmap. See you next week.